Stumps United. We're doing our streams. Live stream. We're gonna start off with Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Oh man. We're gonna start off with Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Then we're gonna move on to Need for Speed. I have it set up here. And I got a lot of, not a lot, but a medium-sized amount of stories. Oh, that's too reclined. So, I spoke too soon. On my last stream, I said, I didn't really see that big of a difference between the Xbox X Series and the Xbox One S. But I do see a difference. I went back to a game on the Xbox One S and it was like, it's so slow, so laggy. I actually had technical problems with when I first set up the X Series, because I put it like it was under my router, my Wi-Fi router, and then I want to go flying. I think we've done all the flying. I don't know. Operation Sudden Death. So, yeah, it was just. So I set the Xbox X Series, behind my other computer, underneath the router, and like there was so much lag, and I'm looking up online, what do I need to do to get rid of that lag? Because it was like a half second. And it turned out a lot of people had the problems where they're like, you need to turn off this HDMI setting and then it will work properly. And I was like, getting grumpy. And so then on a hunch, I was like, well, I've actually had problems with other devices where I put it in terms of wireless interference. So I moved it closer to me, and it seems to be working better now. I mean, it is working better. It doesn't seem to be working better. So whatever is over there is like, I don't know what it is. It's like an extreme electromagnetic storm, because even my wireless keyboard, it's not Bluetooth, it's wireless from Logitech. It doesn't work right. So that was one problem solved, and I was like, okay, so the Xbox X Series got a lot better once I found the right position for it. And then I had installed all these games on my external hard drive for the S Series. I was like, I wonder if it will like keep those. And so Microsoft lied. Microsoft lied and people died. Oh, hey, Game Boy. Good to see you. So, when the X Series was first announced, they were like, you have to buy the expansion. I'm sorry, I'm trying to focus on my story. Failed. But like I said, Microsoft lied and people died. So they said they came up with their expansion slot. It's like super expensive. It's like $200 for an SSD that's 2 terabytes. And so I was like, I wonder if I connect this old USB 3 drive that I used for the Xbox S series, if that will still work. And it did. And I was like, what? Because one of my holdups was like, I would have to get $1 billion 2 terabyte SSD expansion thing, and it's not like a regular SSD, it's their proprietary slot thing. But so it worked. And then I found out, I was like, okay, so you can still install the S series games, which was nice, on the external drive, but if you want it to be a S series or X series, I'm doing terrible. I'm just gonna take everyone out now. So we're actually playing this game off a USB drive, which is a long story short. And then the other thing, I got a flat tire the other day. Thank goodness. It's Did we get everyone? But yeah, so I went to pick up my mom from the airport, and I'm driving, and all of a sudden, I drive pretty far away from people, but it's like it was like 1 in the morning, which is fine because I like staying up late. But so I'm driving, and then all of a sudden I see this piece of wood. It was just like not plywood, but particle board or something. And it was too late. There was a person on my side, so I couldn't avoid it. I went over it, and I said, I really hope I don't get a flat tire from it, because a lot of times they have nails and everything in it. And so I picked up my mom. We went to Del Taco. We waited in line for like an hour, and which wasn't like horrible, but I felt sorry for the people inside. So we get inside, and not inside, but we get to the the cashier's window or in the drive-thru, and no. And there's only one person there. Like, literally, that was it. And I felt sorry for that lady. She was taking orders, then she'd make the food. You know, nobody else. No, hell, man. So yeah, so that took forever. And so that was like maybe an hour. And then, so I hit the board. About an hour later, I picked up my mom. Then, you know, an hour in the Del Taco waiting line. And then made it home. And that was another hour. And so we're about 15 minutes from my house. And then the tire pressure alarm goes on. And we're like, oh no. So all the other tires were like at like 60 and 80, but the rear tire was at like 30, and we're like, so we did make it home, and then the next day it was like really flat. And so we had to return the car. It's a rental. So it's a rental, but I've been doing, the reason why I've been streaming so much this week is because I've been doing a lot of nature photography and everything. So I had to get a recreational passport, and it's just, in Michigan you get them. You usually can renew them online, but you need to have a car. And the thing that kind of sucks is, like, if you don't have a car, you can't get the passport like on your license or anything. But you can get the recreational passport at the state parks. So I finally got the recreational part, because you need cash, and I never carry cash. So I finally had the cash, and then they're like, my rental car was out of state license plates, and so it was like double. It's like, even though I'm a resident. So I got the pass, and then I didn't stick it in the car because it's a rental car, and I wanted to put it in the next car I got. So, and it's for the year, and so I put it in and everything, and then we got the flat tire a week later, which is a couple days ago. And I clean out the car, we return it, and my mom and I are driving away, and all of a sudden I realize, I forgot my recreational pass in the front windshield, because I didn't glue it on. It was just sitting there. So that was like, and like I was like, we got to go back for it. I say we had to go back for it because, like I said, it was an out of state pass. Even though I live in the state, but my license plate was out of state. And so instead of it being like, I think it was like, would have been $14 if I had state license plates, but it ended up being $39. So I was like, I am getting that recreational pass back. I'm holding on to that thing for dear life for the year. And so I go back, but they already closed. And so we ran into one of the workers on the way out. And she was like, oh, I'll leave a note for them for tomorrow, which is today. You know, you can come back and pick it up. So I went back and I found the same lady. And then she was like, what are you looking for? I was like, oh, you know, I left the recreational pass in the car I returned. And so before I went into the car rental place, I had actually found the car. It was still in the parking lot where I parked it, and I looked in the windshield and I took a picture of it, and the recreational pass was right there. And it was a whole ordeal because I was like, well, we returned it last night because, it had a flat tire. And so then they're like, oh, what number did you, park it at? And I was like, well, it's 32. And then she kept looking, there's no 32. And so it ends up, she heard me say 30. And so then I was like, no, 32. And she's like, oh. And it was still nothing. On the key rack, they have all the keys. And I was like, well, we brought it back because it needs repairs. And then she didn't quite understand, which is weird because when we called, she said we had to bring it in the day before. So it was like at her direction we brought the car in. But so so they can't find the keys, and then the lady's like, oh, go, take a picture of the license plate and number of the car. So this car, they had us that was cool, but I didn't mean to do that. So then she's like, oh, go take a picture of the barcode on it. And so I had to walk back to the car, but the car is at the very end of like the dealership thing, the rental place, because it's in the spot for where cars are supposed to get repaired. So I'm walking, and like, of course, this is like the hottest, most humid day ever. And I get there, then I can't find the serial code, but I ended up finding some stuff that was like written in white marker. And I was like, okay, I'll take a picture of that, and then I took a picture of the license plate. And so I go back, and then she's like, oh, okay, I'll punch it in. And so she put in the code, and she was like, oh, it looks like this car is scheduled to have maintenance. And I was like, yes it is. That's why we brought it, because it had a flat tire. And I was like, if they listened to me from the start. And so then they had a special bin for cars that needed maintenance. And then it was funny because she's like, oh, what kind of maintenance does it need? And she's like, maybe it needs an oil change. I was like, no. It had a flat tire. So we had actually called AAA and they put the spare on. So it was fine driving, but they just said they had to have it back. They can't have it driving on the road other than a spare. So that was too funny. And then earlier in the day, I did some cityscape stuff. I'm working with this camera that does I'm working with this camera. It's kind of interesting because it's a telescope. It's like a robotic one, so you can aim it at the sky, and then it figures out what star it's looking at, and then you can tell it, go to this, go to that. It's called the Dwarf 2. But so I got it for astrophotography, but I also got it because it can do wildlife photography. But then it can also do panoramas. And so what it does is it's a telephoto. It's close to 800 millimeters. So that is, very zoomed in quite a bit. And so it will take, a grid of photos, and it's motorized, so it will look left, and then down, and then it goes does kind of like an S pattern, taking as many photos as you want. So I have it do a grid of 29 by 29. And so that ends up being around 800-ish photos. And so when I first did that, it works with the iPad and phone app. And so when I first did it, it couldn't generate the panorama, but I downloaded the photos. Like I said, there was like 800 of them, and I was like, oh, Photoshop will just, it can do the panorama, because there is a little bit of overlap, and I was like, this is going to be impressive. But every time Photoshop failed, it couldn't do the automated panorama. So then I was like, okay, I ended up having to write a Python script that combined all the photos together. You just put them next to each other in the right order. And so what the Python script does is it just kind of appends a photo. So it goes like row 1, and then it goes like photo 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then like it goes all the way up to 29. And then it starts another file and does the 29 that way. So it does it column by column first, and then it combines all the rows together. And so it was 1080p, the photos, and so there's like 800 1080p photos, and my computer just ran out of memory, and so it couldn't do it. And so I figured out if I scaled it down all 800 photos to 720p, then it could do it. And so you might say, oh, stitching together 720p photos, that's not that great. Normally I agree, but there's 800 of them being, put together. So once all 800 were put together, it was about 480 megapixels total. So that's like, it was a huge file. Now if I didn't do like a 29 by 29 grid, then I could have used, 1080, the full 1080p. It was just because there's 800 of them, it got too big. A lot of the Python imaging stuff, like PIL, Python imaging library, they don't like they'll do really large, megapixels. I've done scaling with like 200 and 300, but the Python libraries, for whatever reason, are like suspicious. They're like, are you trying to DDoS this computer by throwing so many megapixels at it? So that's kind of one of the reasons why I was having a hissy fit with such a large megapixel, such a high megapixel count. So I did that, but then there was like doubles around the edges because there was some overlap. I thought I punched him. So then, Python imaging. Oh, so then there's So there was double around the edges because when it takes a photo, it takes a little overlap, so that if it stitches, incorrectly, there's some wiggle room, for formatting. And so that wasn't right, it didn't look good at all. But I thought maybe if I came up with like a basic image of what I wanted, I could get Photoshop to stitch the original photos on top of it and blend them using content aware fill, but it still didn't work. So then I figured out a way that I can get Python to crop each image. So each individual image, it crops, and I have it set to where, I can say, okay, use only 90% of the image. And the actual number for the first ones that looked like it worked well was like you have to use 95% of the image. So it cuts off, a thin border. That 5% it cuts off, and then it puts them together, all the way around. And so doing that, it worked. But I was like, man, if I didn't know how to do image processing in Python, I would have been out of luck. Because there was I looked all over the internet for like a stitching program, and none of them were kind of adequate for what I need. They're okay for like 5 or 6 photos, but they needed a large amount of overlappage, and I didn't have that much large. It was just the border. And then a lot of them couldn't handle 800 small photos. My goodness. So yeah, so that was stitching. So I got that working, and then today I went around Ann Arbor and took photos of U of M Stadium, and so I mounted the telescope to the car, and it's a little thing. It's only like that big. And I put it on the roof, and then I control it through my iPad, and so I just sit there and wait. And it takes 26 minutes to do a 29 by 29 grid of photos. So it's just waiting and waiting. I have Modern Warfare on my phone. I would play that a little bit. I'd have like a Kick stream up and be watching that.
laser weapon.
30 hardware. They're closing in. We need to move.
Copy 1-1. Jackals are on station. Incoming!
Oh man. That was dramatic. Dreadful. I don't even know what killed me. No backseat driver. Whoops. I'm used to Halo Infinite or Infinity where
Just hold on. Let's go home.
the other bumper is the grapple.
That was payback for your offer, huh, sir? Piece of the fall.
Yeah, I'll be right back. And then, so I took photos of the city. I would drive up to like the top of parking structures, and you can imagine if you're taking a bunch of photos, one at a time, that have to be stacked together, there can't be any movement in your subject. So that's why I was doing the like buildings, cityscapes, cement stuff, structures, not so much trees. So that was the goal. And then I also got to eat at this restaurant that had a gluten-free cinnamon bun. Every time my family and I go to IKEA, they're like, oh, get the cinnamon bun pack. And I'm always kind of like slightly jealous, but this restaurant has gluten-free cinnamon buns. But I actually went there on Easter, and they gave me one that wasn't gluten-free, and I died. It was so painful.
Operation Dark Quarry is just outside Mercury, Captain.
So painful. Because essentially my intestines are like ripping themselves to pieces, because they think the gluten is like some kind of infectious agent.
SDF carrier Cerberus is dry docked for resupply in the Miranda Moon asteroid.
But yes, that was last time. So then I ate there by myself, and it was fine. They gave me the gluten-free one this time, because the reaction takes about 2 hours. So it's like, I wish the reaction would be faster, instantly, so you stop eating the food and it's like, oh, this has gluten. But it's like, oh, you ate it and it's been 2 hours, so it's way in your digestive system and you can't get it out. And it was bad, because that time when I accidentally ate the gluten, I had just had my colonoscopy, like, it was like 1 or 2 days before, and so I couldn't take any pain stuff. I couldn't take Tylenol or Advil, which is ibuprofen, and so already my intestines were in pain from the colonoscopy. But
Scanner's clean.
they don't know we're here yet.
Copy. On me.
So yeah, so I was sore, I was in pain. I couldn't take Alka-Seltzer, which usually helps with the intestinal pain.
Transport ahead.
And so it was like a full week of like having kind of a gluten meltdown. It's like, it's not just the intestines. Like my head will start to feel like it's gonna explode, or I can like feel my heartbeat in my head. Sometimes I get twitchy.
Copy.
I like literally feel a twitch in my cheek.
Take your pick. I'll get the other.
But yeah, no. So this time there was no reaction. So that was good.
Let's go.
Do you imagine how boring it is? You have to be on patrol in a spacesuit. You have nowhere to go to the restroom,
South. Left.
and they just leave you around. It's like, yeah, we might be back in 5 hours to pick you up
Clear. Let's go.
if you don't drift away.
Actual. Bravo's on station at Carrier Cerberus.
Copy, Brooks.
take my eyes off her for 1 second. She goes flying away.
Got eyes on the objective. Got maintenance crew working on the engine code. Repair division. 2 hull techs, 2 security.
Take him out from here.
Your call, Ray. Nice shot. Good breath. Engines are clear.
Bravo, how copy?
Solid. Good to go here.
Brooks, Cash! Let's shut these engines down with our EMPs!
Roger. Planning EMP.
Set these EMPs before they send reinforcements, Rand.
Charge set. What's your status, Cash?
Placing down, sir.
What to is set, Raider?
Copy. All teams, stand back. Fire in the hole!
Let's move. 3 mics or less before they restore power.
Retribution, this is actual. Cerberus is out of commission.
Roger that.
Supposedly.
Sector.
Copy. We got skelters in the AO. Get Scar 2 airborne for suppression.
Roger that.
Got the cross top side.
Enemy contact. 12 o'clock.
Push through the bow!
It's not very nice.
Gas clear to the hangar bay. Keep pushing!
I'm seeing what else is there to talk about. No, whoops. I was playing something the other day. I think it was the new Modern Warfare. Same as the old one.
Info, Reyes.
Check. Gator, I'm going interior. Get birds down here for squad eval.
Sending now.
Are you just gonna float here?
All stations, be advised, 1-1 is in. Moving on the objective.
Copy. Watch your ass down there.
Anyway, it was like I was not only killed by a grenade, I was killed by my own grenade.
Be advised, 1-1 is in. Moving on the objective.
Copy. Watch your ass down there.
Yeah, it's literally because I hit the same button.
1 is in. Moving on the objective.
It's my fault.
Watch your ass down there.
Is that the only guy left? It's kind of a sad story, but I've been doing this thing with machine learning for voice synthesis, so I got a pretty good like voice clone of my own voice, and I'm gonna use it for doing like audiobook narrations. And I have
All stations. Jackpot on the
a podcast project I'm gonna be working on that I want to have my own voice as an AI. And
On my way.
so I've tried several kind of, they're like algorithms, different formats for, you know, calculating how to synthesize a voice. And it takes a long time. It takes about a month of processing. That's like with the processing is done on graphics cards, specifically NVIDIA's CUDA cores. And yeah, so it takes like a month. And what it does is it kind of tries a bunch of like random stuff, and then it has, you know, your recording of, it has my recording of my voice, and then it has the text of what I've read. So like I would read, you know, the grass is green, and so it would know that audio file is me saying the grass is green. So it's a whole bunch of super short audio files with the corresponding text, and so it tries to create its own thing, and it says, okay, didn't the formula I just create sound like someone saying, you know, the grass is green? And it says, it kind of sounds like it, so it knows it's getting closer, or it knows that it's getting way off. So every 100,000 steps, it saves a checkpoint, but then it also it knows when it's really close. So it has this thing that it saves the best model, which is like the best parameters. So it's like, you know, the checkpoint 200,000 is really good, but 2001 is like very close to perfection. And then we'll keep going. It goes to like 300,000 steps, and you know 3,500 might be a better might be the best model after that. So you never quite know when it's going to be done, but you know when it's past done. So it will get to a point where it's gotten as close as it can to synthesizing your voice, but then it will kind of get to a point where it can't figure out anything better, so it starts to make really bad data, and then it sounds less and less like your voice, and then it doesn't even sound like you're speaking any language. It's just guttural sounds. But the thing that was surprising to me is that it had my same kind of, not only did the voice sound like mine, it sounded like how I talk with my weird you know, pausing and stuttering and stuff like that. It had that kind of built in. So it wasn't just, you know, it wasn't just sounding like the voice, it was also sounding like my intonations and everything. And so the sad thing is, I had a really good model that I liked, and then I've been doing, experiments with, not experiments, but I've been researching what other people have been using to do voice cloning. And everyone was recommending this one, and I heard the final, the final versions, and I was like, that sounds really natural. And so I spent another month. I have to rent out servers. Not servers, but a single server to do it. And so after about a month, it got to it was 500,000 steps, and it could talk. It didn't really sound like me too much, and it sounded like there was a layer of fuzz in the audio. So that was I wasted a month not working on the project because I'm waiting for the voice synthesis model, and then the money to rent the server. So I was like, I should have just stayed with the one that I was happy with instead of trying to chase something that might have been better, because with the machine learning, you never know what the final output is going to be. A lot of it is trying to figure out how it can be more and more accurate and more reliable, but you don't really know what the maximum reliability is going to be until you kind of get there. And you don't know, it's not like a progress bar where you can find it. You have to constantly testing it and everything. And then, like I said, you don't know how long it's going to take, but you're going to know when you went too far, because it's going to get really, really accurate, and then it's going to start freaking out, and the data's not going to make any sense. I will be right back. I think we'll switch games too, so I'll be back. I'm back. I got new missions.
Godspeed racers, this is the voice of the streets. I've gotten a bulletin direct from the streets. Noise bomb turned out to be a silent dud. Our man Mac took out the Thrift King himself, sliding in one step closer to the outlaws rush. Can anybody stop him? Does anybody even want to try? To Mac, today the streets cheer your name. Drive proud.
You guys hear that? Curator said drive proud.
As if you need the ego boost.
I'm gonna print t-shirts.
Whatever. As long as I don't have to wear one.
Of course you do. You're my crew.
Let's figure out where I'm going. Okay, we're gonna do off-road stuff. So we gotta find that dealership. That's the race dealership. My dog is complaining. Drift. Drag racing. Off-road. No, like not doing too well driving. One of the things I'm kind of working on, I had bought this sound font, I think it's called. It's an SFZ pack, but it's a sample pack of a Steinway piano, which is like Steinway and Sons pianos are like, if you can get one, you get one. But they're huge, and they are grand pianos, not baby grand. But I found a sample pack, and so what they do is they record each key, and then it actually has two sets of recording, so they record each key and the pedals and stuff. But then they also have an ambient one, so they record it far away from the piano and close up to the piano. So you can choose what kind of synthesized sound you want. And then, but what's the good thing about it is it's not synthesized, it's actual audio files. So it's more realistic. And so essentially when you press the key on the keyboard, it plays the audio file at the right volume and everything based on how you play the keyboard and stuff. The piano keyboard. And so I used this one called Podium, and it was fine, but there was a bit of a lag, so when I would make music, it would be like always. I had to focus on not listening to what it was doing and just kind of like remember how to play my song. But I finally said, you know what, I'm not doing Podium anymore. There's a free version. I used the free version. But then I found out there was a paid version, but it looks like it hasn't been updated in like decades. Like it was still for like Windows 7. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable paying, $50 and then it ends up, the type of hardware you can take advantage of no longer exists. So yes, I did some research and I found this one thing by like Cakewalk, and it was nice. It took me like, I didn't even have to watch it. I watched a tutorial on which audio studio to download, but like I didn't really even have to watch a tutorial on how to install my plugins and stuff. It was so simple. With Podium, it was beyond hard. So I'm gonna start making music again. I'm gonna redo some of my classical music because I think it's gonna be a lot better this time. It was okay before. I used to do these classical graphs, which is I would have photography and classical music playing together. So I'm gonna kind of redo that. We'll see. It's really going to be a question of how easy is it to, convert my MIDI files, because I have a huge collection of MIDI music, like huge. It's over 2 gigs of MIDI files. MIDI files are like text documents. They're not very big. But I have to find the hard drive they're on. I think I know which hard drive they're on. I have like notes on what's on each hard drive. But it's kind of a to-do thing. Insufficient funds. Oh, I need some bucks. Gotta go make some money. And it's so stupid because I'm doing it this way because I have to sell the car. I have to sell my other car, but I can't sell it, I don't think, unless I have another car class of the same class. You should really only have to do one. I only needed like 6,000. Did I drive past it? I sure did. I'm just cruising around. Go home, thumbs your trunk. Oh, I think this was the issue. No, that wasn't the issue. I do not accept.
Let's do this. Gotta find the line.
Not on any line.
Here it goes.
This one's a shorter one.
Set a record or something.
I only got a mile to do it.
Everyone loves a show off. Can't stop, won't stop.
That was disastrous. That's why you don't race in real life.
Nice. Oh, come on.
And the event is complete.
I am the
You did it. I'll do 2 more of these just because we're here. I need the money. Now I'm betting.
Here we go. Here we go.
I'm nervous now that I took the bet.
Nice. I could hit these angles all day. Probably one of my best runs in a while. Damn, my bad. I own this city, baby. Excuse me, superstar, coming through. You see this? Keep it going, Mac.
Did I win the bet?
Break record.
Didn't win the bet. You lose. Ugh. Dreadful. Technical difficulties. Okay. There we go. Not betting again.
Showtime! There goes my finesse. Good, good. Hell yeah! I should try this with my eyes closed. Ah, crap. Yeah, this is Unit 23. We have someone out here who is verifiably on fire. Over and out.
I don't know if I'd say I'm on fire. That was
Let's
terrible.
see 'em beat that.
Now we're gonna go back to that dealership. Dealership? Just cruising around.
Sun's down. Watch out for Mac.
Oh, my eyeballs are drying out, but that reminded me of this story. So, I've been having a lot of issues the past 3 years, health-wise, but one of them was I was having a lot of vision problems. So, like, I would, sit in front of the computer like I am now, and like I could barely read the text on the screen. But if I then went outside, I like couldn't focus. My eyes would be like stuck at the same kind of focal length as the monitor. So it'd be really hard to get them to, focus further on. So that was obnoxious. And then I made a new appointment with a new eye doctor. I go there, I go in, and the person is like, "Oh, I'll take you back." So she takes me back. She does the thing where they puff the air in your eye, and they calibrate their machine on your eye and everything. I was like, this is going fast. And so then she does all that, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice. And then she does the actual prescription, and I was like, wait a second. So she literally did everything. She wasn't the doctor. She was like a nurse assistant. I was like, why do I even need to see the doctor if you're doing everything? But so then she finishes, she gives me a new prescription, and I was like, you guys gotta unionize. Mainly because, my old eye doctor, like, did everything old school. There wasn't, he didn't have any assistants or anything. But, I mean, in terms of old school, like, he didn't even do the eye puff test thing for glaucoma, I think it is. Like, he had this special instrument and dye that he had to, like, tap your eyeball. He did by hand. That was scary. And so then she's like, oh, you probably have dry eyes or something, or you're having an allergic reaction. That's why my eyes kind of lost the ability to focus. So then, so then finally, they're like, oh, wait in this room, the doctor will come see you. So then the eye doctor comes in, really late, and they're looking all up in my eyeball and everything, and my eyes are dilated. And he's like, oh yeah, just get this allergy medicine. And it was just over-the-counter stuff, but it helped at the time. But the pricing was ridiculous. Just because, it's like, I think it was like $20 for a bottle, and the bottle's like that big. And it's like, it only has 60 drops. So, like, trying to save the bucks and not miss a drop. That didn't work out well. Our car is now busted down. Now I got all the bucks. Oh, dude. I want it. Oh, we don't have enough anyway. We gotta go back to the streets. Back to the streets. I think I needed like 10,000 or something. I don't remember. I'm so glad the damage isn't like permanent like it is in the other Need for Speed games. I went way past. I'm just cruising. I'm just cruising around.
Bet there's a useful part around here. Let's have a look.
It said you made some poor choices in that turn. Decline.
Here we go. Come on, come on. I'm on fire. I'ma keep going. Good stuff.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Oops. Oh, come on. Probably one of my best runs in a while.
He jinxed me.
Nice. There we go. Getting better and better.
Let's see, where am I? Oh, why did I think I was over there? That's some random person. I am over here. Well, I'm going to stop recording this. Bye-bye.